Shivaya Namaha, Shivaya Namaha, Shivaya Namaha. Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedanscha Prahinoti Tasmai Tamha Devamatma Buddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Sarvo Paplavarahitaha Prajnana Ghanaha Pratyagartho Brahmaivahamasmi Brahmaivahamasmi Om. Vedantartha Vibhasakaya Gurave Shantaya Sannyasine Nanavadi Nagendra Sankhapavaye Yogindra Vandyaya Cha Mohadvanta Divhakaraya Bhagavat Pada Vidham Bibhrate Tasmai Bhashya Krite Namostu Satatam Purnaya Bodhatmane Om. Brahmaham Yat Prasadena Mayi Vishwam Prakalpitam Shrimat Swayam Prakashakhyam Pranavami Jagatangurum Yah Paramatma Jagat Srishtva Pravivesha Punaswayam Tan Krishnam Pratyagatmanam Vande Gopi Manoharam Yasya prasadadahamadvayatma Vishwam samastam Mayi kalpitancha Tan sarvalokaikagurum sadashri Swayam prakasham gurumanatosmi Gurunam charanam bhojam Pranipatya nirantaram Tatkripa Dvaita Chinta Kaustubhamarabhe Om. So now, from the Sukshma Mahabhutas, from the subtle five elements, the entire world, manifest world, has come into existence. When we say manifest, then that has got two aspects: the subtle manifest and the gross manifest world. Whether it is the subtle manifest world or the gross manifest world, everything has come from the five great elements. These five elements are called as Sukshma, the subtle Mahabhutas, because Vyavahara Ayogyatvat. One cannot conduct any transaction, an empirical transaction, with these elements. And that is the reason why it is called as Sukshma Mahabhuta. At the same time, it is also called, all these five, they are called as Apanchikrita. The reason is because they have not undergone the process of grossification. The third thing about the topic that we are going to see is this subtle manifest world is composed of 17 not substances, but Saptadashalinga. The subtle world has got 17 indications, and those 17 are 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Pranas, and the mind and the intellect. All of these together, Saptadashalingatmakam, is the Sukshma Sharira, is the subtle body. Now, when we have said the Indriyas, meaning these are the organs of action and the organs of knowledge. When we are going to call the organ, any organ, as Indriya, then what is the distinguishing factor or a characteristic which needs to be present in the organ in order for it to be called as Indriya? This is the topic. What is Indriyatvam? What is the topic? What is Indriyatvam? Because that whichever organ it may be, when it is going to be called as an Indriya, that means it has the quality, it has the dharma of Indriyatvam. Like the cow has cowness, and cow is called as go. Then what is cowness? Gotvam. Similarly, Indriya and Indriyatvam, Ghata and Ghatatvam. So we need to define what is that ness, Indriya-ness. If this is defined, then wherever it is going to be found, we are going to call it Indriya. Just as what is cowness, if it is understood, then wherever the cowness is, then that animal is going to be called as cow. Correct? And therefore, we need to define the Indriya-ness, Indriyatvam. Kim tat? So the definition here comes to us on page number 71. Sukha dukha anukula sakshatkara pramiti kriya anyatara karanam atindriyam indriyatvam. What all things? Sukha dukha anukula sakshatkara pramiti. First. Kriya. Second. Then Karanam, anyatara karanam. That what is an instrument of knowledge, and that what is that could be either the instrument of knowledge or instrument of action. This is the first part of the definition. And that what is by its own nature beyond the scope of the indriyas, atindriyam, that which is beyond the scope of indriyas, and hence it is both the parts of the definition we have to see. When we are saying it is an instrument of knowledge, pramiti karanam. Pramiti means knowledge. Pramiti or prama, both of these mean knowledge. So, and pramiti karanam, kriya karanam. Karanam is instrument. So it is a tool, an instrument of knowledge, or it is an instrument of action, which means it is because of these, the action is possible or the knowledge is possible. Karanam. Okay. What kind of knowledge are you talking about? So here we say Sukha Dukkha Anukula Sakshatkara Pramiti. Knowledge which is conducive to the experience of joy or sorrow. Sukha, sorrow, misery. Okay. So Sukha, Dukkha, Anukula. Sakshatkara. Sakshatkara is experience, direct experience. Sukha, Dukkha, Anukula, Sakshatkara. So an conducive to generate the experience of Sukha and Dukkha. You touch a surface and you feel pleased. It's something that is soft and nice and whatever. And then you touch another surface that is very hot. Now, in both the cases, the knowledge is the knowledge of touch. But this knowledge is conducive to generate the experience of joy and sorrow. Both the touches, both these knowledges, that the knowledge of touching something that is soft and knowledge of touching something that is hot. Both these knowledges are how they are conducive to generate the direct experience of Sukha and Dukkha. And therefore it is said, Sukha Dukkha Anukula Sakshatkara Pramiti Karanam. Then in another case, Kriya Karanam. It is the instrument of Kriya. So having said this much, now the author gives you a little entry into how a definition should be verified and validated. Okay, how a definition should be verified. Now, why have you said Sukha Dukkha Anukula Sakshatkara Pramiti Kriya Anyatara Karanam? Because that if you were going to say it is something that is instrumental in generating the direct knowledge, which will generate, it is something instrumental in generating the direct knowledge, A. That knowledge will generate another knowledge which is conducive to, which generates, which means which that knowledge generates sukha and dukkha. Are you getting it? So you have knowledge one, the touch. What does it generate? Sukha and dukkha. So knowledge two. So knowledge one generates knowledge two. And therefore the knowledge one is also an instrument. The knowledge one is an instrument and has an instrumental value. So that generates the sukha dukkha anukula jnanam. Now we are going to say there can be other things also which are instrumental, but they cannot be called as indriya. For example, in order to see colors and forms, you would require light. Correct? So, as much as you require eyes, the faculty of visual faculty, you also require presence of adequate light. So light also has an instrumental value in generating the knowledge. So how are you going to say, because there was light, I was able to see the rose. Because there was light, I was able to see the table. So light also has become the cause. It has also become an instrument. But can you say that the light is indriya? No. So the indriya by itself should have something which is the instrumental value A, but something more than that, which is not present in elements like light. Got it? This is accomplished by the second part of the definition, atindriyam. When you say it should be something beyond the senses, a sense or that organ itself is beyond the indriyas. The visual faculty cannot be seen. It is through the visual faculty you can see rose and table and book and things like that, colors and forms. But can you see the visual faculty? No, you can't see the visual faculty. You may at the most see this eyeball, but this physical eyeball is not the visual faculty. It is only the place from where the visual faculty functions. So therefore, this is called as a golaka. It is only a place. So this visual faculty is something which cannot be seen or tasted or touched or smelled. So it becomes something that is atindriyam. And therefore, the visual faculty is an instrument which generates the knowledge of colors and forms, which in return generates sukha and dukkha. But this visual faculty, which is now generating the knowledge of colors and forms, the visual faculty by itself is beyond all the faculties. And therefore, when you give this definition and add atindriyam to the definition, it will not take you anywhere else, but it will accurately show you what is Indriya. And therefore, he says over here, Alokado Ativyapti Varanaya Atindriyam iti uktam. Why did we add the word Atindriyam there in the definition? That characteristic. Otherwise, you can mistake light, etc. also. Light also has got instrumental value. But can you say light is Indriya? No. You are saying something that is instrumental in generating the knowledge of colors and forms. Here you have light because of which the knowledge of colors and forms is generated. But it is not Indriyam. So Indriyam, what is Indriyam now? That it is visual faculty, which is an instrument in generating the knowledge of colors and forms, and by itself it remains beyond all the faculties, atindriyam. And therefore, what is an indriya? It is pramiti karanam, and that pramiti karanam is atindriya. What kind of pramiti it is? Sukha dukkha anukula sakshatkara pramiti. So now we have definition. Like that, kriya is also possible. Let us say somebody says, lift the pot, and then it is a big room which is absolutely pitch dark. Will you be able to go and identify the pot and lift it? Find me a pin, a small little pin, a needle in that big room, chamber which is pitch dark. No. So light is required even for that kriya. And therefore, things like light is one example. There could be other things too. So in order to avoid misunderstanding other elements, which also may be instrumental in generating either the knowledge or generating the kriya, the action, we have to add the second part to the definition, and that is atindriyam. Got it? Why atindriyam is there present in the definition? Clear? Atindriyam. So now somebody is going to question, sir, what is atindriyam? What is that? Atindriyam. Because you must have heard people talk, there is a sixth sense. There is, we don't admit to all these things. Okay? There is a sixth sense, and you have to, we don't give any, we don't admit to that kind of a thing. We say there are only 5 senses. Sixth sense. What sixth sense? No. So, but then are you not saying that there is something that is atindriyam? And we are going to now therefore define what is atindriyam. Here it goes, atindriyatvam nama. What is that atindriyam? If you want to know again what is atindriyam, how are you going to define it? As that which has got atindriyatvam is called as atindriyam. Correct? That what has got atindriyatvam is called as atindriyam. Then what is atindriyatvam? Atindriyatvam nama sanyogadi pratyasakti janya sakshatkara vishayatvam. Hopefully, you people have found a line which we are dwelling on. Are you following it? It is on page number 71, the last line in the first paragraph. Are you able to find? Oh, yeah.
Yes, Swamiji.
All right. All right. All right. Atindriyatvam nama sanyogadi pratyasatijanya sakshatkara vishayatvam. Now, a little technical part of it. And, whenever something is very technical, people generally get tired. Or at times, people feel, what is its connection to Atma is Brahman? Instead of that, Swamiji should tell us some nice story. Well, Swamiji, why don't you tell us of something very autobiographical, experiential? You went to Kailas and there you saw some, Bhagavan Shankar sitting on the top of the mountain or something. Some nice, that we will feel inspired. Something, the energy is very high. No, sir. We are going to follow the text. And this is something that is truly at the core of everything. This is not someone's imagination. Okay. Atindriyatvam. What is that? Yeah. Sanyogadi pratyasatti janya sakshatkar avishayatvam. So how will we say? Sanyogadi pratyasatti janya sakshatkara vishayatvam. Sakshatkara means sakshatkara avishayatvam. Okay. Sakshatkara, not sakshatkara. Sakshatkara vishayatvam means sakshatkara avishayatvam. Now, whenever there is a knowledge taking place, let us say there is a knowledge, this is a red rose. This is your knowledge. This is a red rose. In this case, what has happened is that the object, red rose, and your faculty, visual faculty, what are we going to call it as? Chakshurindriya. Correct? We have seen that. Chakshurindriya. It is able to establish a contact because there is light. So the eyes in the sense, the Chakshurindriya, the visual faculty, was able to establish the contact with the object. This contact, etc., this contact, or give me one more word. Contact would mean sanyog. But there are other things also, and which are not directly contact, but something like a sambandha, that is called as pratyasatti. So sanyogadi pratyasatti. Now contact, etc. So what is said is sanyogadi pratyasatti janya sakshatkara. So the knowledge, this is a red rose, was possible because there was a contact. And this contact could generate the knowledge. Okay, your experience. Now your experiences, this is a red rose. How did it take place? Because the visual faculty could have a contact. If the contact was not there, would the knowledge still take place? Would even that experience, this is a red rose, take place? No. So there is a contact which is required. Okay. He says, what is atindriyam? That it is Sanyogadi pratyasakti janya sakshatkara avishayatvam. It is something that cannot be known through the contact, etc. The contact between the indriyas and the object. So the eyes cannot be contacted. The eyes, in the sense, the visual faculty cannot be contacted through nose, through the olfactory sense, or through any other sense. And therefore, the visual faculty is beyond all the senses. This is what is called as being beyond the senses. This is called as being beyond the senses. Pratyasatti janya sanyogadi pratyasatti janya sakshatkara avishayatvam atindriyatvam. And it is present in the indriyas only. And therefore it doesn't go into light or any other things. Therefore, the definition of indriya is this: Sukha Dukkha Anukula Sakshatkara Pramiti Karana Anya Pramiti Kriya Anyatara Karan Anyatara Karanam Atindriyam Indriyatvam. Okay, now that much is enough. Otherwise, we will have a little, the people will say, oh, Swamiji, what is this? Just to avoid it. Otherwise, go into the details how a definition is framed. Definition, therefore, is not somebody's flight of imagination. Definition means it has to have precision. It should be extremely precise. Accurate. We wanted to tell you, in the sense the author wants to tell you, from the subtle elements, the subtle body is born. What is the subtle body? It is consisting of 17 indications. Out of those 17 indications, 10 indications are indriyas. They could be the indriyas of karma. It can be the indriyas for jnanam. So if it is the indriya for jnanam, for knowledge, it will be called as jnanendriya. If it is an indriya for action, it will be called as karmendriya. Got it? What is indriyam then? This, whatever we have seen. It is karana, and that karana is atindriya. What is that karanam for? It is a karanam for pramiti, or it can be the karanam for kriya. Then in both the cases, that pramiti or kriya is meant for what? Sukha dukkha anukula vyapara. Okay. And therefore, sukha dukkha anukula sakshatkara pramiti kriya anyatara karanam atindriyam indriyatvam. This is what we call as indriyam. Okay. Now, we will go further in the third paragraph now. Okay. Mhm. It, there is a lot because, for people who are not really used to a very rigorous argumentation, may not find it, you know, may find it difficult. So I'm going to skip that part and take you little further. Okay. Ha. In the last line, the second last line on the 71st page, the third paragraph, Manasi Chittasya Buddhau Ahankarasya Antarbhavam Matva Buddhi Manasor Grahanam. So in those 17, we have calculated two things, and that is the mind and the intellect. So there is a Purva Paksha which says that the inner instrument, which is called as Antakaranam. Antakaranam, according to certain teachers, is not an Indriya. It is a Karanam, but it is not Indriyam. It can be a Karana, but it is not Indriya. Okay. Here he says the Purva Paksha is going to question this inner instrument called as what we call as the mind has got four functions. Then one function is that of mind itself, mana, buddhi, which is intellect, chitta, the storehouse of all the impressions, and ahankar, the sense of ego. So we find that there are four forms of cognition. There are four forms of cognition. But you are saying that over here, we are including only two, which means excluding the other two. Mana and buddhi you have calculated, you have counted. But what about chitta and ahankara? So that is being told. Manasi chittasya. When we are going to say mana, which means the mind, the chitta, the storehouse of all the memories, gets covered. And when we say buddhi, intellect, the sense of ego gets covered. Okay? Buddho ahankarasya antarbhavam matva. This is how it is understood. Buddhi manasoho grahanam. So now when we say buddhi and mind, buddhi and mana, it covers the entire antakarana. That also should be included because that is also subtle body. And so over here, manasor grahanam. Okay. Pranapanavyanodana samanaha pancha pranaha tesham lakshanam anupadameva vakshati. There are 5 pranas and they are being named over here. Okay. Namely, pran, apan, vyan, udan, and saman. These are the 5 pranas. These are the 5 pranas. Are you not going to talk about these pranas? He says, Tesham Lakshanam, the definitions of these 5 pranas will be explained further. Anupadameva vakshati will be said. Sequentially, anupadam. Sequentially, it will be given to you. So now, furthermore, we have all the 17 count. The count of 17 is complete. 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, 5 pranas, and mana and buddhi. When we have said mana and buddhi, it covers even the chitta and ahankar. So now on page number 72, the original text, Moola Grantha. Tatha cha akashadi satvikamshebhyo vyastebhyo jnanendriyani utpadyante. It is from the sattvic part of the 5 elements. Pay attention. It is from the sattvika amsha. Amsha means the part. It is from the sattvika amsha of the 5 elements jnanendriyas are born. Utpadyante. Okay. Meaning, look at my finger. And this index finger that you are seeing has got 3 phalanges. There are these 3 phalanges to the finger. When I'm showing the hand, please don't read the lines and all. Otherwise, people will get into how long Swamiji is going to live. Does he have money or not? And is he going to get married? No. Nothing. No, nothing like that. 3 phalanges are here. Now, similar, this is just an example, okay? Facilitating your understanding. What happens is that every element, Akasha, Vayu, Tej, Aap, and Prithvi, all the 5 elements are basically consisting of the 3 gunas. So every guna is a part of that element. Satvika, Sattva, Raja, and Tama. Sattva, Raja, and Tama. These are the 3 parts of every element. Okay. Now what happens is, here the author is saying, it is from the sattvic part of the elements. Now, if this is the Akasha, then it is from the sattvic part of this Akasha, the Jnanendriya will come. Which Jnanendriya will come from Akasha? We will see. But the Jnanendriyas, similarly, of all the 5 elements, from the sattvic part of the 5 elements, what is born? The Jnanendriyas are born. So, Akashadi sattvikamshebhyo vyastebhyo jnanendriyani utpadyante. From the Akasha, one Jnanendriya comes. From the Vayu, another Jnanendriya comes. From the Teja, yet another Jnanendriya comes. So individually, every element gives birth to one Jnanendriya. Vyastebhyaha Jnanendriyani utpadyante. Vyasta means individually. So tathacha akashadi satvikam shebhyo vyastebhyo Jnanendriyani utpadyante. What comes from which indriya? Jnanendriya comes from the sattvic amsha of akasha. Look at it. आकाश सात्विकांश आकाश सात्विकांशात श्रोत्रम उत्पद्यते. It is from the sattvic part of the akasha the auditory faculty is born, which means the auditory faculty comes into existence. Akashadi sattvikamshat shrotram utpadyate. Vayoho sattvikamshat tvagindriyam. It is from the sattvika amsha of Vayu when the tactual faculty is born. Okay. Then Tejasaha. It is from the sattvika amsha of Teja, fire, chakshu, the visual faculty. Okay, visual faculty is born. Apam satvikam shad rasanam. It is from the satvika amsha of apa. Apa means water. Now this water is not H2O water. It is element water. Okay. Apam, what comes into existence? Rasanam, the faculty, the gustatory faculty. Rasanam comes into existence. Gustatory. Rasanam. Prithvi satvikamshat granam. From the satvikamsha of Prithvi, the olfactory faculty comes into existence. Got it? That is the reason why I said that do not jumble the sequence. Keep the sequence and the number intact. How will you keep it? Remember the Shruti. Tasmad vai tasmad atmanaha akasha sambhutaha akashad vayuhu vayoragnihi agnerapaha adbhyam prithvi. Okay, so this is the sequence. In the same sequence now, you have the Satvikamsha bringing into existence respective Jnanendriyas, the Indriyas for knowledge. Okay, the organs of knowledge. Shrotram utpadyate vayoho satvikam tvagindriyam tejasaha satvikam chakshu apam satvikam rasanam prithvi satvikam granam shrotram akasha ityadi shrutehe. And there is a shruti. So the knowledge that we have about the sattvikamsha of every element giving birth or bringing into existence the jnanendriyas is also not an one's own, imagination, but it is what it is shown by the pramana. What is that pramana? He gives that shruti. Shrotram Akasha Ityadi Shrutehe. So there is a Shruti to this effect. Now let us go to the commentary. Okay. Saptadashalinganam Utpatti Kramam Aha Tathacha Iti. The author wants to show you the Utpatti Krama, the sequence of their birth, the sequence of birth. Sequence of whose birth? Of those 17 parts. Those 17 parts are called as indications, lingas. So he wants to show you, what does he want to show you? The Utpatti Krama, the sequence of birth of those 17 parts, which totally now are going to be called as the Sukshma Sharira. This is the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body. Okay? Utpatti Kramam. How does he begin that, telling you that? Tathacha. In the original text, Tathacha. This is how he begins telling the Utpatti Krama. Now, we were introduced to a new word called as Vyasta, which I said is individual. Okay? Vyasta and Samasta. So it means Vyashti and Samashti. Samashti is totality, and therefore Vyashti is individuality. So what Samashti is totality, Vyashti is individuality. Then what is called as total? Samastam. What is called as individual? Vyastam. Got that? So here, from Vyastebhyaha means Pratisvikebhyo Jnanakaranaani Indriyani Jnanasya Sattva Parinamatvat Tat Karananam Indriyanam Satvikam Shakaryatvam Upapadyate. Now, this knowledge, the experience, etc., that you are having is what it is. It is a modification of the Sattva Guna. And therefore, to say that the Jnanendriyas are the modification of the Sattva Guna of every individual element is justified. Upapadyate. It is justified. Therefore, we can say that the Jnanendriyas are born from the Sattvika Amsha of every element, respectively. From Akasha Sattvika Amsha, Shrotram is born. Shrotram means auditory faculty. From the Sattvika Amsha of Vayu, Tvagindriyam is born, the tactual faculty. So on and so forth. Vyastebhyaha means pratisvikebhyo jnanakaranaani indriyani jnanasya sattva parinamatvat tat karananam indriyanam satvikam shakaryatvam upapadyate. Tatra kasmat kim utpannam iti akanshayam aha. And therefore, when you have said respectively, individually from every element, one faculty is born, then naturally you have a curiosity to know which element has given birth to which faculty. This akanksha, this curiosity of yours, then is satisfied by the author by showing you the element and its Jnanendriya. Got it? Ha. Shrotrasya shabdagrahakattvena shabdagunakatvad akasha satvikam shad utpattihi. Now, the akasha, the space that we are talking, so therefore we are not talking about this space. We are talking about element space whose guna, the attribute, is shabda, sound. Now, when we are talking about sound at this point, it is not something which is an object of your auditory faculty, because the object of your auditory faculty is the grossified sound. We are talking about sound from which now even the faculty and the object is born. So Shrotrendriya, the auditory faculty, is the receptor for sound. And Akasha has the guna of sound. Shabda gunakam. Akasha is Shabda Gunakaha. So Shabda Gunakatvad Akashad Satvikam Shad Tadutpattihi Kasya Shrotrasya Utpattihi. Therefore, now we can say Akash Shabda Guna. Its Satvikamsha now modifies into Shrotrendriya. Its Tamoansha is going to get modified as the sound which you hear. So Shrotrendriya is the receptor of the sound, and this is the object called as sound. And therefore, both of them belong to Akasha. The only difference is one is Sattva Guna and the other one is Tamo Guna. Okay? Like that. Now he says, similarly, every Indriya of these 5 elements, you only decipher. And find out. It is left to you. Yadindriyam rupadishu panchasu madhye yam gunam grihnati tadindriyam tadgunakam iti vyaptehe. Anyatha shabdagrahakam eva nasyat. Eva tvagindriyana tvagadinamapi vaivadi satvakam shakaryatvam drashtavyam. So also it should be now understood. Okay, which indriya is born from which element, and why only that indriya is born from that element? Because that indriya belongs to that particular guna. Okay, that's why. Iti drashtavyam. Tatra shrutim pramanayati shrotramiti. And so now pramana is also presented. How did you know? It is from the shruti that we have allowed our intelligence to understand this much. Okay, so pramanayati. Shrotramakasha ityadi shrutehe. Adi shruti means there should be many more. So he says Adi Shabdena वायौ त्वग्नौ चक्षुर अप्सुजिह्वा पृथिव्यां घ्राणमिति गृह्यते। अस्य अर्थः आकाशे यः सात्विकांशः तस्मात् श्रोत्रमुत्पद्यते इति पर्यायान्तर पर्या पर्यान् पर्यायान्तर पर्यायांतरेषु अपि योजनीयम्। ओके, सो ओके, अंतःकरणस्य श्रोत्रादि द्वारा शब्दादि सर्व विषय ग्राहकत्वात् सर्वात्मकत्वं वक्तव्यम्। Okay, now we will now shift to something more. How, what this antakaranam, the mind, intellect, etc., how is it born? And we will tell you, it is from the total satvika amsha of all the five elements. From individual element, indriyas are born, but from the totality of it, the mind is born. What is that? Let us see when we meet tomorrow. Okay. Om Brahmaham Yat Prasadena Mayi Vishwam Prakalpitam Shrimat Swayam Prakashakhyam Pranavami Jagatangurum Yah Paramatma Jagat Srishtva Pravivesha Punaswayam Tang Krishnam Pratyagatmanam Vande Gopi Manoharam यस्य प्रसादादहमद्वयात्मा विश्वं समस्तं मयि कल्पितं च तं सर्वलोकैकगुरुं सदाश्री स्वयं प्रकाशं गुरुमानतोऽस्मि गुरूणां चरणां भोजं प्रणिपत्य निरन्तरं तत्कृपालेशतो द्वैत चिंता कौस्तुभमारभे। पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ओम शांति शांति शांति। शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। Thank you all. Thank you very much.